let's actually take a closer look at the playoff picture as it stands currently.
Jeez.
I specifically want to focus on the 7th seed right now, as that seems to be shaking up a little bit. Let's let this load really quick. That 7 seed seems to be shaking up a little bit. So where we're at with the 7 seeds, let's go to the NFC first. We got the Bucks, the Cardinals, and the Rams, who all lost today. And the bubble teams, the Vikings, I believe, had a good win today against Tampa, against Carolina, which was pretty crazy. And then, of course, the Bears. How do you guys feel like this is going to shake out now? Because it seems like the positioning is going to change, and maybe your thoughts on a couple of these teams has changed, maybe particularly Arizona or LA potentially. What are your guys' thoughts on where the 7 seed and the bubble's kind of at here?
To be honest, I think the Cardinals are the team out of both the Rams and the Arizona is the team that looked to show the most falter going down the line. I mean, they just don't have the fight, and like, this is a bad Patriots team. Like, the Cardinals should have won this game. To be fair, though, the Patriots did get really lucky on that last drive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got one big play, then they got a helmet-to-helmet penalty, then they got some other stuff that led them all the way down for them to kick field goal.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams... See, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's going to be a situation of the Rams, now that they're 7-4, we don't really like the Seahawks are in a better position than the Rams because they don't even have to care about a tiebreaker here, because if the Rams lose if the Rams lose 2 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we lose 1, we don't have to worry about that.
Shane, am I correct in saying that the Seahawks have the easiest schedule over the next, let's say, 5 weeks? Is it about like the easiest or close to the easiest?
I mean, I think it is the easiest, according to most people. I mean, they got
Philly tomorrow,
and then New York, back to back,
both in New York
at home.
Washington.
Yeah, Washington, they're not a great team, but
that defense is nasty.
Yeah,
the defensive line.
Defense is really good. I think they'll give them some trouble. Then after that, it's LA and then San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah.
But dang, like the NFC East being that bad, like it is the easiest schedule. I mean, they're probably even for. I mean, the next few weeks, like obviously we're gonna be pretty happy with the Seahawks defense, I would imagine. But this is an opportunity for that defense to get better with this easy schedule. But realistically, they should have an easy time with the NFC West just based off that schedule alone, right?
Yeah. I mean, you would think. But, this is the NFC West. It's quite crazy. Anything could happen. Yeah, I mean, I do think Seattle wins this division because the thing about LA and Arizona is I think LA, they very well could win the division. However, I mean, defensively, they're really good. I don't think anyone's denying that. But offensively, they're just so up and down. You never
They're
ever
inconsistent. I figured them out.
Yeah.
They're inconsistent. That's it.
I mean, yeah, they're not predictable at all. Sometimes, you have a game like the one against Tampa where Jared Goff throws 50 times and just has an absolute field day. And then you get games like these where he throws 2 picks and he just looks like it's his first NFL game ever.
Well, yeah.
And it's just, I just don't know. I don't know why they are so inconsistent. Maybe it's because of him. I don't I don't really think it's Sean McVay. I think he's a pretty smart coach.
Hang on there, Shane. Let me ask this question though.
Okay, yeah.
So compare this offense, because obviously it seems different to me, just conceptually. I'm not sure verbiage wise, but compare this offense, how Sean McVay's run this offense, potentially in play calling or all these different things, to that team that made to the Super Bowl that year against the Patriots, because it does look much different.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not having Todd Gurley, because he kind of declined last year, partly because of injuries. But that year when they made it to the Super Bowl, he was the best back in the NFL. He was just dominant. I mean, nobody could stop him. They would give it to him 30, 35 times a game, and he'd get 100 yards every time. And so, not that they need him necessarily, but I think now that they don't have that really consistent runner like him, it's hurt them, because now they're realizing, now I am realizing that Goff isn't always the most trustworthy passer, because not that his arm mechanics are bad. I think he has a very good arm, actually, but I just don't think he makes the best decisions all the time. So it's tough. I mean, I think they're making best of the situation they're in, but I don't think that this is really sustainable going forward. I don't think Sean, or not Sean McVay. I don't think Jared Goff is the right guy for them going forward. And I think they need another, really consistent power runner back there to be able to go between the tackles and get the heavy yards, which, I mean, they kind of have, but not really. I mean,
yeah,
they've got like three guys in there that they're all kind of juggling around.
Right. They have a good committee, but it's not as succinct, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good committee of like B minus guys, instead of, Gurley, who was like an A plus for them in whatever year that was, 2018. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Defensively, I don't really worry about them. I think they're pretty good. I mean, they're a little weak at linebacker, but their defensive line, Aaron Donald. I mean, I think Aaron Donald is one of the top 3 players in the NFL, and Jalen Ramsey has been a great addition for them. Their secondary looks pretty solid. So I think it's Goff and just not having a consistent run game that's really hurting them in the end.
Brandon, I'll go over to you at the AFC side. Obviously, we talked a lot about the Colts last week in the AFC South. Obviously, the Titans with Derrick Henry balled out today. What are your thoughts on both the Titans and the Colts in this battle for division supremacy in the South?
Yeah, I think obviously the Titans all year. I'll say this. I felt like the Titans were like a little bit like phonies at the beginning. They lost some games that I feel like they should have won. But this was a pretty dominant message. However, I still don't see them as the all-around team, because they just rely so much on Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's why I don't like
They just
about him
rely
either.
so much on him to win. And honestly, I think the only team in the AFC that's balanced is the Chiefs. The Steelers throw it, and yes, they can run it, but they throw it all over the yard. The Titans, they run it all over. The Bills, I don't even know what they're up to. The Browns are The Browns are fluky. And the Dolphins are good, but they're not there yet. And
They're not
the
ready
They have
for
a
prime
low.
time.
They have kind of a low ceiling, I think. The Dolphins.
And the Colts, they're a really good defensive team and a pretty terrible offensive team. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, their offense isn't there every week. And then the Ravens, obviously, we've said a lot about them. How about the Browns, though? Like, obviously, they've had a bunch of weird, bad weather games at home the last 2 weeks, as we talked about. Now in Jacksonville, obviously it's Jacksonville, but the fact that they were playing in 78-degree weather, they could actually throw the ball all over the yard. Baker said he still kind of expects more from himself and the team. What do you make of those comments, but also kind of where this Browns team is at?
I mean, it's a fair comment considering these are their scores for the year. They lost to the Ravens 38-6, and then they won. They beat the Bengals 35-30, beat the Browns 34-20, beat the Cowboys 49-38, beat the Colts 32-23, got blown out by the Steelers, beat the Bengals by 3, Raiders beat them, beat the Browns by 3, beat the Eagles by 3. Well, no, not 3, by 5. And then they beat the Jaguars by 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, this is a... I mean, honestly, this is what the Browns should have been the last couple of years. Like, this is a team that's finally... They figured out how to win the games they're supposed to win. But they're not doing it in a dominant fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really believe in this Browns team. Like, yes, they'll make the playoff. Like, round of applause for them. Good job.
Finally. Took you forever.
Like, took you forever. But, like, I would argue, good luck in a regular season, Browns, when, like, every team has all their players. Because I would argue the AFC, when every team in the AFC has all their players back, I don't think the Browns make the playoffs when they're playing full, like, because you look at the NFC, and most of the NFC has all their players, all their key players. AFC is pretty lacking in some of their key players.
Yeah. My thing overall with the Browns is they need to have an identity, and their identity is running the ball. They didn't do it that today. And it was really, I was like, okay, fine. Like, it's the Jags, I get it. But you have to stick with this identity. This team is about running the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They have to continue doing that, I think, if they want to be even competitive in the playoffs.
Sure.
I think they're going to have a tough time with the top 4 teams up here.
And they need to keep their ego in check, too.
I don't think that's been too much of a problem this year.
No, it's
I really
not.
don't.
I'm just saying that is something you have to watch for.
Well, I mean, I would argue one of the things is OBJ went out pretty early,
Yeah, that's true.
so
That adds to it for sure.